Welcome to the Evolution of a Property Business podcast, brought to you by Sam Watterson.
Okay, so good afternoon and welcome to the Evolution of a Property Business podcast with your host, Sam Watterson. Today, I'm really pleased to welcome the wonderful, the magnificent, the man with the best hair in property, John Paul. Everyone's favourite northerner.
I think I'm the only northerner.
So John's a proper northerner, not like
County Durham, proper Billy Elliot country, a proper northerner.
Yeah. So anyone who doesn't know John Paul, he runs and owns the Castledene group of estate agencies and letting agencies, and he's also a industry legend, coach, and mentor. So thank you very much for giving up your time to join me today. I'm particularly pleased about this interview because I've got a lettings background. So I'm really interested to find out more about lettings, because the industry always seems very heavily weighted with estate agents, and lettings kind of gets an afterthought. So people like yourself who are, driving the letting side forward are really, really interesting. And you're kind of like my heroes. So for the sake of the people watching this on YouTube or listening, for those of us who don't know you or those who don't know you, can we get a bit of a background on you and what you're all about?
Cool. So, I mean, that's a pretty emphatic introduction, Sam. So I hope I just live up to part of that. I mean, I started off life as a landlord, bought a couple of buy-to-lets. I mean, the long and short of it is that I don't want to, get the tissues out and get everybody crying, straight from the off. But a lot of people know my background. My dad had an engineering company, sent me and my brother to a good school. Me, my brother and my mum worked for him. Then, unfortunately, one day he brought us in. It was a Sunday, and he said he had cancer. And my mum had cancer, breast cancer, beat it. And we were like, "Don't worry, Dad, you're going to be fine." He went, "No, son, I've got 6 months to a year to live. I'm riddled, basically." So the idea was he was going to fire sale the business, sell it for 20-30% less just to get the sale through. Set me and my brother up, set my mum up. That was fine. 2 weeks later, I got a call from my mum, literally on the Sunday, saying, this is it. So I rushed down to the hospital where he was at. He was sinking into a coma. And 2 days later, he died. To top it off, he was systemised, as in, like, he had ISO 9001, which for anyone listening is it's a quality standard, a quality system. It's a very big, very well known. However, because it was written in such a way that he was integral to the business, it went bust. The business went bust 3 months later. So we lost my dad, my best mate, and we lost the business and the entire family income, because all three of us were employed by the business. So, I was first one to be made redundant because Grant Thornton, the receivers, the administrators that came in, my brother was number 2, my mum was 3. This all happened in the same day.
How old were you?
24. I was 24. So that was that. So I mean, I think I got 600 quid redundancy. Like I even remember it. My mum was okay. She had a couple of insurances, but nothing spectacular. So I then went to work for a foundry. My brother sort of dabbled in the leisure industry, like working at leisure centres and whatnot, and he's doing quite well. He's a coach for a call centre at the minute. So I went to work for a foundry, like a proper, like, melt metal up to 1600 degrees, like spitting sawdust where men were men type of thing.
Yeah.
Is the health and safety manager and the quality guy. So you can imagine they hate the quality guy anyway, because basically I'm telling them the work's not up to scratch. Yeah. And on top of that, I tell them they weren't doing it in a safe working manner. So my name was mud. I got brought in there, and it was, to be fair, it was a real baptism of fire, actually. Quite a good choice of words, considering it was a foundry. But I got brought in because there was an accident and the guys weren't wearing the corrective molten metal clothing, MM1 clothing. So I had to tell 25 guys just to show me how to put on a pair of trousers and how to put on a jacket and put on your glasses, your gloves in front of me. So I was hated, but it was really good because it got me into the habit of just putting up with really difficult and tough conversations with people, like big, sweaty, hairy-ass blokes, to be blunt, who weren't very good communicators. I mean, there was 25 staff there, and there was 4 of them who couldn't read or write. So it was old school, like real old school. And then a couple of years later, I enjoyed it. It was quite good fun. I found I was cleaning out my garage and found an old business plan that my dad and I sort of drew up. And it was rubbish. It was sell business, buy loads of houses. It was literally that. So I said, it must be a bit of legs in this, but it could go quite well. So I read it, did a bit more research, did the old, websites, forums, learned a bit more about property investing, and remortgaged my property I was living in and just started investing. From then, I was doing a lot of mixed martial arts. I was going all over the world. I was training, I was competing, and I wanted to do that professionally because I just turned pro. So I wanted to do it as a full-time job. So I think I'd been competing for about 3 years, maybe 3.5 years, and I decided to get somebody in to manage my portfolio. And the idea was, because martial arts fighting didn't pay a lot back then, it was really poorly paid. So I was going to get somebody in, manage, say, your 20 houses and Fred's 5 houses and Susie's 3 houses. That was going to pay for my employee. So therefore, the income of all of my houses was mine, and I could go train.
Yeah.
This was 2008. And housing benefit had just changed to local housing allowance, where instead of ticking a box and you got paid the money direct, it doesn't matter what you did, the tenant got the money. And as we all know, back in those days, there's a little bit now, the tenants used to do a runner. So I went to the council after one of my personal houses had been, the tenant had got the money and done a runner. And I said, why have you done that? Oh, the laws have changed, the rules have changed. Can I know a bit more? So they told us a bit more. I said, who told you? Oh, my boss. Can I speak to him? And eventually I went up the chain. And before I knew it, I was speaking to the head of housing benefit at Durham County Council. And I think he must have felt sorry for me or took me under his wing, but he gave me a lot of his time. And he said, look, this is where we get our information from. The DW, Department of Work and Pensions circular, this little form that went round and it had the rules on. Yeah. You want to buy this book by Zebedee Ward and Lister. It's the Guide to Housing Benefit. So I did it. I actually contacted one of them, one of the authors, and became quite good pals with them. And we co-authored a couple of things together. So we quickly made a niche and a name for ourselves in local housing allowance. And before I knew it, the council were saying to a lot of landlords who were struggling, you need to go see John. He's not an agency, but he can help you. So before I knew it, landlords were coming to me and they were saying, look, would you just do it for me? So that's when I set up Castledene Property Management, started managing it for other people, and just grew and grew and grew. And within the first 18 months, 20 months, we had nearly 180, 190 properties under management. Right. It was crazy. A lot of them were like 10s and 5s and 20. I think we had a 25 or 30 or something. So it was probably about 180 houses, maybe 40, 50 landlords. That's what it was like. So it wasn't a huge amount of landlords, but it was a lot of property.
And a lot of those had come to you through the council directly?
I would say a good 2/3, yeah.
Okay, that's good. So am I right in thinking, because the theme of this podcast is to talk about how businesses evolve and people's models. So am I right in thinking that you bought your portfolio of properties and you decided to subsidize the cost of someone to manage your properties, you would manage other people's, and that kind of gave you the foundations of the managing agency?
Yeah, so there's me and there's a lady called Bev who worked for me, and then we employed somebody else and someone else and someone else. Got into sourcing. I actually got into sourcing literally when I first started the management side of the business as well. So it was like quite a nice start level to go into. Yeah. So we've been sourcing since like 2008. So quite a while, 14 years. And then from then it just sort of grew and grew and grew. Made an absolute ton of mistakes. I mean, my old recruitment policy was like, hi Sam, do you like property? Yeah. Do you want a job? Yeah. You start tomorrow. Yeah. That was literally my recruitment policy. I was recruiting just people who had a vague interest in property. Yeah. I wasn't a letting agent. I didn't have any idea, clue how to run a letting agent. And I think that was my kryptonite, but I think it was also my super strength. Yeah. Because I wasn't, and I still say it now, that the reason we've done quite well in business is because I've never worked for anybody else. I always say it because I think outside the box and I look at, well, why are you doing so well? Well, because you're not following the normal model. Or why are you not doing so well? Because you are following the model. Yeah.
I must admit, I sometimes think that, because I started off just by renting my own houses out and then just thinking I'll rent other people's houses out. For me, it was, I started paying someone to do my maintenance, and I felt guilty that I wasn't earning something to counteract what I was doing, right? And so I went for something that was more salesy, doing viewings, and started letting rooms for people. And I was the same. I set the business up the way I would want to do it, from based on working in businesses rather than agencies. And I never worked in a letting agent or an estate, so I never had the bad habits or the old-fashioned training and the ways that.
Yeah, and that's a good point. It's one of the things that we did is we went down the portfolio manager route, where somebody, I mean, we've gone back to the hub route, but that's I'll explain that in a second. But we used to have one person that was responsible for putting the tenant in, managing the property, evicting the tenant, and arranging all the repairs and the maintenance and the viewings and stuff. No, they didn't carry out the viewings, but they organised them, and then we had somebody who was externally on the road doing it all. Yeah. And that bucked the trend a lot with small independents. It's quite popular in the larger agencies, and that's why we've gone back to it, because when you manage a couple of thousand houses like we do, it's just more efficient, it's more effective, and it's easier to recruit, believe it or not, because you're not going for that specialist, that all-rounder where you've got to be brilliant at everything. We're going for admin who are just two admin just chasing arrears all day, every day. You don't need a huge amount of skill set apart from, same values and good communicators and a bit of tenacity.
So am I right in thinking then that your model and the way you've done it has evolved over time as you've taken on more branches, more staff, more properties?
Oh, yeah, Sam, we never stop. It's literally every single week something's changing in a positively. I generally say I don't know a single estate agency who has grown and evolved as much as us in this period of time. I don't. Corporates might have. They've got the back ends of 100 million quid or whatever. I had 500 quid in my mum's spare bedroom.
Yeah.
That's how I started.
Yeah.
So, we started with the portfolio manager route, then we've changed that. That took quite a while. We buy businesses, acquire them as well as organic. Our systems and processes are always changing. We're quite big on tech, so we're changing that. Always adapting and evolving that. Sales and psychology and influence techniques. I'm a geek when it comes to that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Marketing, not just like bung it on Facebook or Google. Like, how do you measure and market it? So how do you pull up the marketing report so you can actually have a look at where your pennies are being spent and what ROIs you're getting?
Yeah.
So I've always thought that the big businesses work for a reason. So take the good things about the big businesses, get rid of the rest. Small businesses work for a good reason. So it's personality, it's community, it's being part of the area and the locality and the local business. So take a bit to that and chuck out that bit, and just get the good things that work. Try it, test it, tweak it, and just constantly evolve the business.
Be corporate, but be agile, you're saying?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Be corporate, but agile. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Just to give everyone a bit of context, you started off in 2008. How many properties do you manage now? How many branches have you got? How many staff? Just to give people an idea of how you've scaled in that time.
Yeah, so we've got 11 branches, plus Fine and Country. We've got 54, 55 staff, and about 2,200-ish houses, and we'll sell. I think if things go well, we'll sell about 1,000 houses this year.
Yeah, and it was only recently, I think, wasn't it, that you started doing sales? Was it about?
Yeah, we did, technically. I started sales before lettings, is in the property, the sourcing.
Right.
But if you're talking about traditional resi sales, it was probably 2018, 17, 18. And we just bought a business. So we bought one called Gordon Lamb that had been there for 40 years.
Yeah.
And they had quite a good strap line. Nobody knows Washington better, which is where they were based. Then we bought one called Hegarty's. I'm lying. We bought Hegarty's first. Then we bought Gordon Lamb. Then we bought a one called Red Hot. Crap name, but I didn't choose it. That had been going for about 10 or 11 years when we bought it.
Yeah.
Then we bought one about 18 months ago called James Wynn. That's in Thirsk, Northallerton, and that's our little crown jewels. That's an absolute belt of that.
Yeah.
And we've just bought our sales, so we've bought the estate agents. And that's, and believe it or not, now we're sort of swinging it around where we've got enough branches. We don't particularly want any more branches unless like an amazing deal came up. Yeah. But now we're just buying lettings portfolios.
Okay.
So we've got the access, we've got the foundations of the sales in certain areas. We're just improving it, spending more on marketing, growing that side. We don't need to break into anywhere else. But now we're just going to sort of just buy as many lettings books as we can afford and to sort of support that, because we've got the hub now and the hub works really well.
Am I right in thinking then that you being a systems man, self-confessed geek, that when you bought the first sale agency, you then went and looked at the systems, the processes, almost deconstructed it and went, right, well, that's how you do sales. We can then use that in our other branches, and you kind of rolled it out that way. Is that?
Yeah, kind of. Not as much as what you might think, because we didn't buy absolutely failing businesses. We bought really good businesses
Yeah.
that they were motivated to sell for various reasons, like wanted to get out, retire, but they were good businesses. One thing we did underestimate is the power of what a local owner, what he can bring to the business.
Right.
So so you can systemize it to a certain point, but there will be, when we sell it, there's automatically that, like, a little bit of a drop off in sales immediately, because we haven't got in there enough to get under the hood and to rip out things and add things in. But when you run your business and you are Mr. Leeds and everybody knows you, inevitably your contacts are going to stop contacting you for sales, or they'll go elsewhere. So we did underestimate the amount of having a local presence or a local business owner. So now when we recruit for managers, we try and recruit people who are local to the area, who are really, really good on social media, the gobby, they're really personable, because that is a massive thing. Just in the queue at the bank or something, oh, what do you do? I'm a estate agent, here's my card. Those types of people we want.
Yeah. Or when people see the video of the agent on the listing, and then they see them in the cafe or the pub the next day.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, 100%. So the latest one we bought, and this is just to give an idea, we bought it December last year. So that was called, this is quite funny. So we've got this red hot business, 3 branches, in a little Northumberland village called Prudhoe.
Yeah.
And we bought another business about 50 yards down the road. We're red hot. This one was called Yellow. So we're going after the colours.
Right.
So transferring everything up, and Prudhoe was selling about 2, maybe 3 houses a month.
Yeah.
Right. It was selling virtually nothing. It was losing money. And then we got a high street presence. We bought Yellow. We took 2 of the staff up in about 180 houses. And I think she's on 12 sales for this month. She got 14 last month. She's 11 the month before. Absolutely smashing it.
Yeah.
But she's local. Her Facebook presence is probably the best in the company, because she's just always on there. She's promoting it in groups.
Yeah.
Nicely, not like, look at me, I'm awesome, but just like, got this one for sale. What do you think, guys? Give me a ring if you want to book a viewing. But she's local, and she's proud to work for us, and she's proud to, like, I'm selling this out. And every time, we've got a manager's WhatsApp group, prospecting. Every time she gets a 300-400 grand house, it's like, look at me. So yeah, it's a bit of a learning curve, but it's all positive.
I think the sales side of the industry is very people driven, community driven.
Yeah.
Very personable. Lettings is a bit more process driven.
Yes.
I guess that's why I like it, because I love processes and sheets rather than fluffy stuff.
No, you're right. If you're good at processes and systems, and I joke on saying, I feel safer when I talk to my lettings guys.
Yeah.
Like, because they're just, but my sales guys just tell me what I want to hear.
Yeah.
It's like, I wouldn't go for a night out with my lettings guys, but with my sales guys, but I wouldn't trust my sales guys with my PIN code and my wallet. I'm joking, obviously, because I trust them all. I wouldn't employ them, but that's just the different personality types. But so that's why we don't know what the world's going to be in the next 6 months. Interest rates are rising. I don't think it's going to fall off a cliff. I really don't, based on what I've seen in the Economist reviews. But my business partner's a little bit more doom and gloom than I am. So what we've decided to do is again, just go after the lettings books and sort of, so if it does fall off the end of a cliff, we've got another 500, 600, 700 houses that's propping up everything until it does get better.
Yeah, I mean, lettings is recession proof. I set this business up in the middle of the financial crisis, and one of the reasons why I like this industry so much is it's when the economy is doing well, people buy houses. When the economy is
they rent.
Or they rent. So either way, somebody's either buying houses to rent out or not moving and renting the house because they can't sell it. So it's really good. One thing that I'd be interested in then, because you obviously grown your business rapidly and you do acquisitions. How would you compare growing organically versus growing through acquisition? What's your opinion on that?
I would never, ever open a branch ever again.
Right.
I would always acquire. I think you get there quicker. You don't just buy, you buy intellectual property, you buy goodwill. you're buying immediate income on day one. I mean, this is on the proviso that you've got the time and the structure set up.
Yeah.
And it's the speed. It's one thing you can't get back is time. You can make more money, you make another business, you can do whatever, but you can't get more time back. Buying 200 houses and just having 200 houses on Monday, you know, if you bought a business, it would take you 2 to 3 years, and it would take your time. So you'd be in there, and even if you weren't in there, you'd be teaching somebody else. So it's really, I mean, there's some big boys doing it in our industry at the minute, and I think they've got it absolutely nailed on. Buy them, consolidate. So it's basically a buy and build strategy. So we tried it. We had a branch in Spennymoor, County Durham. We give it a go for, I mean, we opened it up December 2019.
Right, yeah.
So Christmas, forget that. Started to get traction in the February. What happened in the March? The whole world fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
So I think we ran that till a year, just over a year. And then we decided to close it down. It was just losing money left, right, and centre.
That you've closed down.
Yeah.
So I think I remember when you were doing the shop refit and you were telling the story on social media about
that. Was it.
So that's interesting. So you've gone down that route and decided that you're better off growing your existing branches and acquiring.
Yes. Well, if you think about it, you've got to be sort of brutal in business, right? You know, it's all well and good doing all the nice fluffy stuff and the community stuff and the charity stuff, and I welcome that.
Yeah.
And I like to think I'm a capitalist with a conscience.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very much about, you've got to make money and then you can help people.
Yeah.
Right. You know, if you're living in a tent or you haven't got a pot to piss in, it's very hard to help people other than your time. So you've got to look after yourself. It's a bit like when the plane crash and the masks come down. They always say put it on yourself first, then you can help other people. So I'm a big believer in that. So if we build a profitable business, so we can do stuff. My business partner is really sort of active. He's ex-services. He's a lot older than me, but he's big on helping the veterans. And I've got my community stuff, the kidney stuff, because I give a kidney to my brother. So I'm big on that type of thing. But you've got to grow a profitable business. And our business, this organic one, sort of going back around, wasn't making any money. So as soon as we came back after the first lockdown and we could start to trade again, and I totally get why it was, people didn't use us because they just went with the 2 or 3 established brands in the town that made them feel safe.
Okay.
That had been there 20, 30 years. So we were really up against it. So no matter what marketing we did, and we had Google, we had Facebook, we were door knocking, we were leaflets, we were doing all sorts. But we were very, very time sensitive. So we still had the rent to pay, we still had the staff to pay during lockdown, although we furloughed. We had a lot of money and it just started losing money. So we just took the sensible decision to just close it down. Nobody lost their jobs and we did no being to anyone.
Was it a case of almost opportunity cost? If you're spending time, effort, and money on that branch, it's time, effort, money you could be spending on something else that's actually going to give you a better return. Yeah. I think it's really important that you recognise that it's time to call it a day. I see a lot of people flog themselves or flog an idea and they just won't let it go because they feel like quitting is a bad thing. But I think knowing when to call it a day.
Oh, Sam, I'm not going to lie and say, it was a tough conversation with my business partner and, my MD. And Adele gets me because she's worked with us. We've worked together as colleagues for nearly a decade now. Yeah. And she knows I'm all about winning. And my business partner, he knew the same thing. But, when you present it with the data, and I'm looking at it because we've got an FD and he's presenting the data and you're going, I can't argue. I literally cannot argue with the fact that it's not making money. And Adele was saying, well, I'm spending this much time on it. And I knew I was spending time on it and I don't get involved in it. I was more going around just as how we doing, guys? Come on, the G up type of thing. And it was just presented and I went, let's do it. So we just started going through the process of shutting that down. The manager put his notice in to go elsewhere. So it was a good opportune time and we just redeployed the rest of the team across the other branches. So, and we'd spent a fortune on, it was an old gym.
Yeah.
So we spent an absolute fortune on doing it up. So the landlord was absolutely over the moon. Like 40,000 quid spent on his building and he got it back after a year or 18 months. He was just
he rented it now.
Do you know what? I don't know, because and another thing as well is we have a branch less than 3 mile away, 4 mile away. So we only managed about 30 houses at the time, which is not bad considering we didn't have it open that long, and we just moved those houses to the Bishop branch.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was recognizing it. You're dead right. It was just sitting down there and says, right, what's best for the business? And it did feel as, I mean, it was on a Friday, and I had a really, really crap Friday night. I went to the gym on the Saturday, and I just chucked around as heavy weights as I could just to get the aggression out. Felt absolutely knackered on the Saturday afternoon. I remember sitting with Gemma, my wife, and saying, yeah, it's the right decision, this. And she's like, really? I went, yeah, it is. I've got the crap out of us. You know, I've hit the bags, I've done whatever. I think it's the right decision. Let's do it.
I think you've got to. My dad said something once to me that stuck, and he said to me, "I've never made a mistake in my life." And he was proud of that. And I remember thinking,
yeah,
you've never made a mistake. You've probably never pushed yourself out of your comfort zone, and you have to try things. You know, I let sales go in 2018, which you'll know because prior to that, I was on your mastermind with Rob.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, I'm not an estate agent. I can't jump in the trenches with the team when the going gets tough. I'm just looking at what's going on, and I've got no control. And it was so volatile, and and it was up and down, and completions would take longer, or sales would fall through.
Yeah.
I just remember thinking, like, the guy who was running it was like, and I've been headhunted, and I was like, do you know what? This is the opportunity for us to just call it quits. It was really stressful. It took a while to unwind the properties we had on the market, the sales going through. But looking back now, I know that was a really big and a hard decision, but it was the right one, hands down. And I never came away from that thinking, I'm a failure, because I had to let that go. I remember thinking, I'm in control now. I'm in control of the boat that I'm the captain of, and I know what I'm doing. So I've had personal experience of that.
It's exactly like when you play a sport. It's like there's a couple of analogies. I mean, I'm a big rugby guy, so you're getting beat at half time, right? You've got to take your pals off. Maybe some of your pals aren't performing.
Yeah,
you've got to take them off and put the reserves on, put the subs on, so you can win the game at the end. So it might not be a popular decision. It might piss a few people off. It might make you feel really bad because you know the amount of work that they've put into it. But ultimately, to run a business, you've got to be results-based.
Yeah.
Effort-based businesses don't work as well as results-based businesses.
Yeah. I think. Sorry, go on.
No, go on.
No, sorry, mate. I was just going to say, I think a good example of this that I can think of with property investors is when they've got a portfolio of 10 houses.
Yeah.
They're just attached to buying more houses and owning the houses, and they never really think about buying and selling. So they might have one that's not performing, and they put all their time and effort and they try and turn that one round. When actually, if they just went, well, let's sell that one and let's use the money to buy something that looks like the one that's the best performer. And I did an exercise last week, which I've never done before, which I should have done, which is why I went through every penny that goes in and out of each individual property, stripped it out of my portfolio and looked at it and went, well, hang on, that one's doing really well and that one's not doing so well. So I'm now going to go back a few more years to give myself at least 3 years worth of data, and then probably make a call on selling one or two of those to realize the equity to then put into, to a new property.
So do you know what you've just described there? And this is where most businesses go wrong. You've got a strategy. Yeah. So the strategy is the high level thinking of where you want to get to. The tactic is the actual, just the smaller parts of it. And a lot of people are focused on the day-to-day tactics. You've got to be focused on the overall strategy. Once you've got a strategy, everything else just falls into place. The strategy of, I don't know, football game or something, so-and-so is weak on his left foot. So, that's a tactic. The overall strategy is how you're going to beat them as a team, if you like. So I think a lot of businesses just focus on day to day and they get very reactive. And when you're reactive, that means you're reacting to it. You're getting dragged into the business. Guess what? You're self-employed. You've got a job. You haven't got a business. And you've got to recognize that and take a step back and trust your team to do it. But it's tough trusting people, because if I employed you, I mean, see, I've just met you and you start on Monday. I'll be completely honest, I don't trust you on day one. You've got to earn trust. Trust isn't a natural thing that's given. Because if that was the case, you go to a stranger and just say, here's my bank card and my details. You wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Because you're a stranger on the first day I meet you. You've got to prove it. You've got to gain my trust, gain my respect. So I think it's a big thing that once you've got that team around you, let them make the mistakes, because they're going to mess up. But you cannot grow a business, you can't evolve your business if you're getting dragged into the day-to-day rubbish.
You hear it a lot. People who can't let go. I do it because I don't trust anyone else to do it, and then they can't grow, or they don't have systems in the business because they do everything.
Yeah,
I had a chat with someone the other day, and I said, "Look, you don't need systems in your business at the minute because it's just you on your own. But you're at
yeah,
the point now where you need to bring a team member in, and then you'll realize that that person needs a system to follow and a process." But,
yeah.
and I think landlords make that mistake as well when they talk down about agents. Oh, it's easy. I do it myself. It's easy. Well, hang on a minute. Anyone can manage one properly and do it wrong, but to manage a portfolio of properties where you look after the needs of not only the tenant but also the landlord compliantly within the
Yeah.
law is a completely different thing, and you've got to compare apples with apples.
Oh, I would absolutely agree. Listen to this, right? So I've been both, so I can speak from experience. Landlords who have not, unless they've been both, don't have an opinion. Well, they do, but it's wrong because you can't compare. You can't have an opinion based on only half the facts. It's not a well-informed, well-educated opinion. It's a half-assed opinion. So if I don't know a single landlord who's been a landlord and been a letting agent and went, you know what, this letting agency thing's a piece of piss.
Yeah.
It's always the other way around. No, it's like when I was managing my own, if I couldn't be asked to go collect rent on a Thursday night or whenever, I just didn't do it. You know, I'd before rugby training or whatever, it's like, oh, I can't be bothered. I'm just going to go straight to the gym, then I'll go to rugby. Or I had a heavy night last night with the lads. I'll just give it a miss. Can't do that when you've got a letting agency. You've got to be professional. I used to have a stern word with some of my tenants back in the day when I first started, before I knew better. Can't do that now. It's so
upside down.
The things that you're sorry.
Dangle them upside down.
Well, we will not go there. But I've got to pay my rent. There's actually I've got a good photo. I don't know if you can show this up, but I'll ping it across. There's me when I was in my cage fighting days, and I'm on top of someone like punching them like that. And when I used to go around doing the circuit for like meetings and network meetings, I used to always they give a bit of background about yourself.
Yeah.
I put that up, and I was down at one on the Wirral. And I said, oh, by the way, it was a joke, because you know me, I'm a bit of a jokey sort of a guy. I went, oh, that's me when I used to collect the rent.
Yeah.
Right. Joke. There were a woman in the front row went absolutely batshit mental, saying, that's a disgrace. I say, I'm joking. That's really not me collecting the rent when we top off, So
I don't want to top.
Yeah, exactly. So it's tough being a letting agent. I don't think landlords appreciate it, probably because they've had a bad experience with not so good letting agents, but you get a good letting agent, they're worth the weight of gold.
I think it's always the landlord's selection process of the agent that was wrong.
Yeah.
They either go for the big boy who everybody knows, who's got that many staff that no one really knows anything about anyone, or they just go for the cheapest. And they don't go for people who are passionate about the job, who care about it and who know the areas. So if anybody's listening and they want a letting agent in either Leeds or County Durham, go for the passionate, independent guys like us.
Go for us too.
So I'm going to move the interview on in a second and start talking about some of the stuff you've been doing more recently. But just going back to the agency to finish it off, talk about some of your biggest mistakes then as you've grown your agency and how you overcame those.
Yeah, so I think recruitment was a big thing. So recruiting the wrong people, that was some bittersweet. So, and not having a good, it's very easy saying recruiting the wrong people, but if you've only got a few candidates showing up, then it's best of a bad bunch. So I think the entire recruitment process wasn't great. It's a lot more slicker now. We've got more avenues to get people. We almost want them to come. We almost want them to say, "Can I have a job?" Like, so they're like looking for us to work for, rather than us begging them to come to work for us.
Yeah.
Treating people well and giving them more holidays and higher wages, like the common sense things. And I see a lot of people where they say, "Oh, it's 20 to 22 grand, so I'm only going to give them 18 or 19,000 quid or whatever." And you're like, well, no, just go in with your most expensive price on day one, and you'll get more people to choose from. You'll get a wider pool, because a really good employee will gain so much more than that 2 or 3 grand difference in a wage. Like it's nonsensical. It really is. So there's that. I think prospecting from day one, I think I would be doing that. Literally build it as part of the daily job, as the life.
Yeah.
Systems, I'd systemize it better and sooner, for sure. And do you know what? You're gonna laugh at this. I would do higher end stuff a lot quicker as well.
Okay.
So we were breaking at that. I mean, that's known what I know now. It's very easy to say with 20,
Do you mean from a sales point of view?
Yeah, for sure. I would try and build a higher end brand quicker, because it took us a long time to get it in high end stuff, like many years. And some of our brands still aren't in the higher end stuff because we're seen as like a low end medium sales brand, and same with the lettings as well.
Well, I think people get an impression of an agent as being operating in a certain market.
Yes.
Some of the things that Jordan said on the last podcast was about that, and how the guys from Lilly and Simpson were saying they got a reputation for only selling their landlords' houses.
Mm-hmm.
So they found it really hard to break into the more expensive. And if you set your stall out, I guess, from day one, that's what you become known as. One of the things I talk about a lot with my mentees on my course is, put your message out there and talk about something that's very specific and become known for that thing. And if you get known for that specific thing, you can be recommended. People can't recommend you if they don't know what you do.
Absolutely.
And on the subject of mentees and mentoring, you've been a coach and a mentor now for how long?
Oh, probably about, in one form or another, about 5 years.
Yeah, and you mentor, is it letting agents and
both letting agents and estate agents and other businesses as well, because good business is good business. So I've wrote a couple of books on the subject, and everything that we talk about in the books you pick up and you can put it into any business. So I've got masterminds, one-on-one coaching clients, membership site, online courses. So that takes up a good portion of my time now, because we've systemized the agency where we've got a really good leadership team and a very good management team to do all the day-to-day running of it.
Yeah. So if you were to then look at how you split your time, just roughly, how would you say if you were to average it down to a day and a percentage, how much of that time is spent with the agency? How much is on acquisitions? How much time with coaching?
You will be surprised to know that I am incredibly disciplined, and I've got my diary, so I only do certain things on certain days.
Right.
So I only coach and mentor people on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and they can book in with that.
Yeah.
Fridays tends to be fine and country days. And a Monday tends to be content creation or like sort of admin for my agency / Castledene. And then Wednesdays is always about Castledene. Yes. So if anybody wants to say, don't get me wrong, if I've got like a gap on a Tuesday afternoon, I can hop on something else, or if something's really urgent. But that's the way I like, and I find having that structure and those systems works really well, because I can get into coaching mode. So for instance, I'm a big I've got my Remarkable 2 thing,
Oh yeah,
I love them. So wake up dead early every day, spend 10-15 minutes going through the notes of my coaching clients that are coming up in the day, so I know exactly where we are. We log everything on Asana, all the Zoom calls and stuff, check their accountability, my accountability, so I'm prepared. And then I just go through my day. Friday is all about like finding country, and it's come up with marketing stuff and new ideas and the letters and all that sort of stuff. So and I just find that I've got my fine and country head on. It's all about that.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good way of sort of channeling your focus then. What was I going to ask you then? So the mentoring side of things and the coaching, very different to running a letting agency. In a letting agency, you're dealing with a lot of people who don't really value you or appreciate you. Apart from obviously the money side of things, what do you get out of coaching people and helping them grow?
I really, really like seeing a process. So I like seeing where they were when they first came to me, and I love seeing where they are at the end of the process, or if they decide to move on. I love that. I love getting the pats on the back and saying, "Oh, JP, thanks so much. We've got the skills matrix. We bought this business. We've got that." I love that, and just the slow evolution. So recently, there's been 2 or 3 people that have come to me looking for acquisitions that have ended up selling or in the process of selling the business.
Right.
And
I always feel that bad, have you?
Well, funnily enough, I always spend 10-15 minutes trying to put them off buying a business. So the first thing is get your house in order. So look at your current business. Can you forget the money? You could have £1 billion in the bank. From a time, resources, skill set, current staffing, can you afford to buy this? Not the money. Can you afford to buy it? Yeah. And these guys have gone away, come back and went, do you know what? We can't. We're not set up currently to deal with another 200 houses or whatever it is. So we're looking to sell. And I just love it because I've got people at different levels. So we've got people who are 1 or 2 employees. I've got somebody with 5 branches and 50 employees, somebody with 3 branches and 40 employees, and everywhere in between. So it's great to see, 5 branches, 1 person with 1 staff member. So and you just start, everything is different because we've got the systems, we've got the structure. So we know there's like 9 modules, 9 things we talk about, from KPIs to financial modeling, management, leadership, customer defining documents. And I'll talk to this person about that one first, then that one second, and that one third. But then I'll go to that person and it's a completely different topic to talk to, because that's what they need specifically for their business. Where, I've been on masterminds, and I know my friends have been on masterminds and colleagues where they just go and they go, right, Sam, what have you done this week? There's no structure, there's no learnings to it, there's no deep dive into your business, what you need. The more saying, what problems have you got, Sam? Well, with all due respect, how the hell do you know what you need to do? You're just telling them about your problems. Unless you fix those problems and you put structure in the business, you're constantly just going to have shit to talk about. You need to deconstruct the business, find out what's going well, what's not, and then slowly but surely build each module up in the business. And hopefully those issues are effectively, what we're doing is we're not finding a solution, we're trying to find a cure to your problems. We're not putting a plaster on it, we're operating to try and fix the issue.
Yeah, so we're almost preventing something from happening rather than dealing with it when it happens.
Absolutely, yeah. So what one I went on, I got a lot out of it, so I'm not going to name it because it's going to sound as though I'm hating on him. But I went and he had a pen and paper. We go, right, what's gone well, JP? What's gone not so well? What do you want to talk about? I was like, well, what I want to talk about and what I need to talk about are 2 different things, surely.
Yeah.
And I got a lot out of it, and it was really good. But I just didn't feel as though you understood my business, where I get into filling organizational charts, and I want to know the staff's name, and I want to know, we rag what we call red, amber, green. We rag your job description, so we know what you have to do and you can't give away. What you could give away tomorrow, that's a green, and what you could give away within the next 2 or 3 months if you train some of your team up. And once we do that, we say, right, this is what you need to do. So you've gone from working 60 hours a week to 30 hours a week. So you've got 30 hours a week where we can prospect or work on strategy. So it's interesting, but I genuinely love it. I really do love helping businesses.
Yeah. So to give you a cheeky plug, your mastermind and your coaching, is it in Manchester you do the mastermind?
Yeah, so we do it's once a month we meet in Manchester. The one-on-one coaching is like this, it's over Zoom, but then once a quarter we meet in Manchester as well, just so all the one-on-one clients can get together. So if anybody wants to know more, just get in touch.
Get in touch, because you're on the usual social media channels, aren't you? Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah.
Are we connected on LinkedIn? We must.
Yeah, we will be. Yeah.
I don't really go on LinkedIn a lot. I made the mistake of letting people connect with me, and the problem is now I've just got about 4,500 salespeople I'm connected with that have no interest in what I'm doing. They just want me to buy what they're doing. So I think I'm gonna have to cull it and start again. And that's the good thing about Facebook, to be fair, is the Facebook groups. You've got pools of people who are interested in lettings, who are interested in estate agency. Connect with them, and you're in the right place. Whereas a LinkedIn's a bit more about, web designers from Pakistan and stuff. Yeah. Cool. I know we're approaching the end, so I'll try not to ask too many questions. One thing I'd like to ask you, though, is for anybody else who's out there starting a business or starting out in property, what tips could you give them that they can implement right from the start to give them an advantage?
Yeah, so get your market, get your strategy sorted. So understand where you want to take the business, how you're going to take it there. But one of the things I would focus on is marketing. Like, become really good at marketing in your industry, because you could have the best systems in the world, the best people management, but if the business and the leads aren't coming in, then you're not going to make any money. Second thing, and it was something that got taught to me years and years ago, is whatever industry you're in, make sure you know the law to it. And I'm talking about a healthy obsession with it. So I'm not asking you or suggesting that you should be a lawyer, but I am suggesting that you should be able to talk on the appropriate level with a lawyer. Literally, you need to know that much. Like case law, I know, about 15, 20 different bits of case law that's very applicable to lettings and sales. So, and I mean, you've seen me on the forums. If anybody has something, I generally don't have like a saved document, blah, blah, blah. I just go on and know, O'Brien versus Robinson, Warren versus Keane, 54, Pelkey Beatley, 2012 or whatever. So I know all the main ones. And also contract law is a big thing as well. And then team, know how to manage people, understand people, have empathy. know when to shut up, know when to listen, know when to say sorry, know when to know you're wrong, know when to pass on opportunities, and be very, very disciplined and diligent in everything you do. If you're disciplined and diligent, especially with your time and your diary, you've got a massive advantage over a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think everyone tends to just deal with what's in front of them, don't they? And the phone rings, they get on with that, and they drop everything, and they get a bit chaotic. So what does the future hold for you then? What's your sort of 5-10 year plan? Where do you see yourself going with Castledene, your coaching, and everything else?
Yeah, so the coaching, I'm not going to grow more than what it currently is, just because I've got other business interests at the moment. If and when we decide to sell Castledene, then I'll be able to grow and scale that. So the Castledene's going really well. We're just going to be buying loads of little more letting agencies and just plugging them in. I'm building a bit of software at the minute, so I'm getting into Proptech. So that's doing quite well. That's about 80-90% built. So that's called Prospector Pro. And that is be a bit of software that integrates with your CRM, pulls all your landlords and your vendors, and it pulls up lists, and you dial them, and it records calls, and it tells you. It's going to be a nightmare for normal staff, because if I say to you, you're going to have to prospect every day 40 minutes. By 5 o'clock, if you haven't prospected, I get an email to tell me that you haven't prospected, so I can kick your ass. So from a business owner's perspective, and it pulls a lot of data as well. So you would put in the reason why you're calling, and you would put in any reason for the objection, and then over a period of time, it will tell you the best time to call, what you're not very good at handling objection-wise, what the best reason is, and it just pulls loads of data. So it's using real-time analytics to make you better and more effective at calling.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that's overlooked. We use a system built around HubSpot, and that allows us to create lists of people and look at all the analytics and call them through our phone system and record all the calls and send text, SMSs. So I'm still in the process of building out the workflows, but it gives you that kind of infrastructure to do it. And one thing I realized from looking at a proper CRM system designed for business generation compared to like an industry legacy system for posting ads on Rightmove and managing tenancies is, they're just not designed for business generation. They're designed for managing what you've got. But it was interesting you brought up the subject of Proptech, because I remember when the pandemic hit, that you've already alluded to, a lot of people, myself included, were like, holy shit, what's about to happen? What we didn't realize was, so the 23rd of March 2020 was when Boris Johnson went, right, we're going into lockdown, and everybody went home, and that was it. Everyone was on furlough. But on May the 12th, they released guidance for lettings and estate agents that we could go back to work. So we pretty much went back to work from then. So we only had about 5 or 6 weeks where we couldn't trade, unlike the hospitality and the leisure industry. But what we didn't foresee was that the industry was going to go absolutely nuts. House prices were going to go through the roof, and we'd actually have a really good time of it for the last 2 years, partly stimulated by the stamp duty, partly stimulated by people wanting to move because they were wanting to work from home with gardens. But I remember very vividly, you went into kind of crisis aversion mode, and you sort of sat around with your generals, and you were like, right, we realized that we need to operate leaner, better. And you went really hard into Proptech, and you were trying out all sorts of different gadgets and gizmos, and
loads.
You got into it because years ago we were having conversations about Macs, and you were like, "Oh, my IT guy won't let us have Macs."
Mate, like now you can't stop us. I've got more apps on my phone. I've got a Mac now. I've got my Mac there. It was it was really interesting time actually, and I just I'm not a bloody visionary or anything like that. It just, to me, it seemed common sense that that we're not going to be going back to work for God knows how long. So we need to work smarter. I'm always about working smarter. I flipping hate it. Like I went to the gym this morning and I've got a PT, and he's great because he says we only need 45 minutes, but he beasts the living crap out of me. But when I was in my bodybuilding rugby days, it'd be 2 hours, and I'd be chatting and I'd be doing this and that. So it's efficient. He says you don't need more than half an hour, to be honest. But and it was the same with this. So we had all the gadgets. We tried this, it didn't work. I get a bollocking off my MD. We tried that, it doesn't work. I get another bollocking. On the 5th attempt, we try some of the things. She goes, "Oh, that's pretty good, John. Well done. You know, you're 1 from 5." So just trying everything with Good Lord now, and I know Good Lord's not for everybody, but we find it works really well. We've improved our inventory software. We've got a Reaper for CRM, and we're massively utilising that. We're integrating trigger text as well. So again, so not just your blanket mail text or your one-off text. So a viewing's booked text, valuation text, arrears text, whatever, just text.
Yeah.
On top of the good old phone call. So just evolve, like the title of the podcast, evolving your business.
Yeah, exactly. I was prattling about with my automations before I went on holiday, and I've set it up now where if somebody rings the office, and whether we answer it or not, if we don't have that number in our CRM system, it puts them in a list. And if it's a mobile number, it sends them a text message saying, "Thanks for calling. Why don't you like us on Facebook?" And I've just left that running.
Love that.
So I'm going to go back and check the data, see how many people have actually liked our Facebook page off the back of that. JP, I'm going to wrap it up now because I know you've got another meeting to go to. Just wanted to say thank you very much for joining me. Really interesting conversation as always. If anybody's interested in speaking to JP about acquiring agencies, about selling agencies, or jumping on some of his coaching on Mastermind, look him up. He's easy to find. Sounds like the Pope. A bit different.
Well, yeah, man.
But yeah, that's been the Evolution of a Property Business podcast with me, Sam Watson. Thank you very much, John Paul.
Cheers, mate.
And the battery died on my mouse, so it'll take me a few seconds just to disconnect it.
Thank you for listening to the Evolution of a Property Business podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.